My name is Dustin Wheeler. My family calls me Duck Duck, and my love of wine created the Duck Vine. The joy and passion I have is a bottle of knowledge I want to share with you. Let me be your favorite sommelier and pour you a big glass of edutainment so you can sit back, swirl it, sniff it, and sip it as we ducks fly together through the wine world. Let's duck and go! Hello, all of my duck friends out there. Welcome in for the next episode of the Duck Vine podcast. Again, I appreciate everyone's love and support. Thank you for that. And as always, if you guys do feel like backing us in a more financial aspect, that's greatly appreciated, especially during this time as we transition jobs and still try to take the exam and keep the podcast running, and the energy bills and internet and all that. Everything that you guys have done to help support the podcast is greatly appreciated. I think I have some of the best fans in wine out there, and I don't doubt that for a second that you're some of the best podcast fans at that. What's been interesting though, is we're kind of hitting this time of the year where food becomes more and more of our lives than it does during the summer. I guess maybe because during the summer everyone wants that beach bod, that pool bod, not so much the dad bod. So we're heading back into a time where, you know, typically we do a lot of regions and explore history and things like that, but pairings have just been a great staple for what we're going through in this season and continue, because, you know, after this podcast, we're not too far away from Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and so on. But this one, before we get to all those holidays, is the fun holiday, Halloween. Probably not the first holiday that jumps to mind when you think, what wine am I going to be pairing with my Halloween candy? But somebody has to do the hard work, and that's what we do here at the Duck Vine podcast. We sacrifice our bodies, our taste buds, and our wallets to bring you all the dirty dirt on what's the best of the best to go with the best of the best. Even though we will talk about candy corn. Some people love it. Most people hate it. I think 2018 it was voted the most unliked Halloween candy out there. But we'll still touch on it for all you candy corn lovers. Don't hate me too much. So, what do we know when we talk about wine and pairings, and especially in the traditional sense, wine was something that's sweet? Typically, if you go through a dinner, we say that if you're going to have a dessert wine, the dessert wine has to be sweeter than the dessert. It has to have a higher sugar content, otherwise it just doesn't work well. Flavors start to like contradict each other. You can get weird zings and zangs and twangs, and can be a little off-putting in the palate. So that's the traditional thought. So how do we make it work with candy? Well, there's ways to still make it work. We just have to think outside of kind of the normal realm. We're not talking about having a meal pairing here. We're looking kind of for some distinct flavors. What gets interesting with this, though, is some things will be based on flavors in the candy. Some will be based on the sugar content. Some could be based on just the coating, or the texture. So there's a lot of different ways that we can look at how do you pair wines with Halloween candy. Before we get into that, I do want to touch on one other quick little note. What if you're having a Halloween party, or, you know, an adult Halloween party, or it's a girls' night Halloween party, or the guys are just getting together and having some bevs? How can you incorporate wine into a situation such as that? So there are some Halloween ideas out there, and basically what these wines are their labels or their cuvee names, the producers' names all kind of have a um, Halloween or edgier name to them. So maybe like spooky kind of themed um, labels as well. So some of them that you might want to think about if you're going to an adults party. There's a Merlot called Ghost Pines Merlot. Um, there is Chronic Cellars Purple Paradise. I'll put some of these on the Instagram so you can see some of these labels, but they're really neat. The Velvet Devil, which is a Merlot out of Washington State. The Fat Bastard Bloody Red, which is out of France. Seven Deadly Zinfandel. The Razor's Edge Shiraz. Ravenswood Besieged. There is a Walking Dead Blood Red. And I think we've all seen these last two probably in our supermarket. 19 Crimes and then Apothic. They have a dark red and a red. I believe they have a white as well. But just some fun like themed wines that you may want to take a look at. So, you went trick or treating with your kids. You didn't drink all those bottles at the Halloween party. Whatever. How do we pair some favorite Halloween candy selections with some spooktacular wine pairings? First, we're going to talk about Smarties and sparkling wine. So, the sweet tart tubes of tiny candy disc, really kind of that Halloween staple. We've all seen them, we've all had them. Those little bites have a sweet, fruity flavor, this kind of unique chalky finish, perfect for pairing with sparkling wine. The freshness of the wine keeps up with the sour bite of the Smarties, helps relieve some of that chalky feeling that you'll be left in your mouth. And even if you kind of want to splash it up a bit and make it a little bit more fruity, don't miss out on a off dry rosé to go with some of those sweet tarts. The sugar sticks as well could work with this. I would stick to though having an off dry sparkling going down that road. Peanut butter cups. Love me some peanut butter cups. Anyone out there throw yours in the freezer for a bit? There are a few more heavenly combinations than chocolate and peanut butter. Classic Reese's peanut butter cup. No matter the time of the year. I even think about them when I'm going to play golf in the summer. Not just a Halloween thing, year round. When I think about them, I think of the texture. It's a creamy milk chocolate. And then a salty but creamy, almost kind of drying peanut butter. So we want something that's soft and velvety to go with some of these creaminess. Maybe some fruit. Like think about if you were to have a chocolate peanut butter cake dessert, what kind of fruit would you throw on it? Like maybe some raspberries or strawberries, something like that. Go with a velvety Merlot. Warm fruit notes, soft tannins. It just adds to the layers. It complements it. Such a fantastic pairing. Please don't fall into the sideways syndrome. Merlots are incredible. And I think more and more as the wine world progresses and changes as it does all the time, not like, oh, Merlot's this new thing now, but we go through these peaks and valleys of wines, and each wine has their own peaks and valleys. I think we'll see Merlot start to come back on the rise. So now's like a perfect time, why they're still a little bit more affordable than cabs, to check them out. They really have fantastic pairing capabilities, not just with candy, but menus all the way around. All right, let's get the let's get the elephant out of the room here. Let's go ahead and tackle that old candy corn. Oh, candy corn. I don't know what it is about candy corn, what makes it so divisive. But man, is it. I like I said earlier, I'm not a fan of the candy corn. I am very texture based when it comes to food I eat. So that probably explains a lot. But anyways, whether or not you like them, wine can really change how food tastes. So I'm going to give you two kind of pairings from opposite ends of the spectrum that I think will go fantastic with it. And the first one is a crisp oat Chardonnay, those creamy, kind of buttery notes of a Chardonnay. It will match that candy corn where they try to kind of imitate that baked apple caramel kind of mix that they got going on. The creaminess of that buttery chard matches so perfect with the candy corn um, that it's definitely one you should check out. You might be a little bit surprised. I'm not saying it's going to make it um, the most favorite candy of all time after that, but it could potentially open you up to maybe liking something a little bit different. Now, I offered a second pairing, and that would be Sauternes. So go back to the Bordeaux episode. Sauternes is sweet white wine, and it has enough sugar content that it will hang out with that candy corn. The only drawback to it will be like, oh, Dustin, you told me go get some Sauternes. Only drawback to it is the price. Sauternes is as it is a commodity, small production, high price. So just keep that kind of in your back pocket if you're like, you know what, I think he's on to something. Let me go get Sauternes. Don't be sticker shocked, okay? Twizzlers. Chewy, twisty, lots of varieties of fruit flavors, strawberries and cherries and orange cream. Makes it an interesting dessert to or candy to try to pair with. So what do? Grenache. Grenache. Think of Rhone. GSM. Grenache is always known as that fruit forward, little bit of spice undertone, but just big red fruits. So if you can find a Grenache dominant, I posted one not too long ago on our Instagram. That was 70% Grenache. Fantastic with the Twizzlers. Also, pretty good with Laffy Taffy, except for the banana. Banana, you'd have to go Beaujolais because Beaujolais is Beaujolais and it already has banana flavors in it, anyways. But, well, that's a different story. Grenache, though, is fantastic for those red fruit, gummy fruit, kind of Halloween candies. Twizzlers just being a great example of a wine to pair with. All-time classic. Like Coca-Cola, when you think about America, you think of M&Ms. Yep. What do you pair with an M&M? You know, those little addictive candies in my house have become my daughter's favorite. And she will eat them till the cows come home if I let her. So, unfortunately, to stop her from eating all the M&Ms, I have to eat some of the M&Ms so she doesn't eat them all. It's a self-sacrifice, I know, but as parents, we have to do things like that. And so when she got her last bag of M&Ms, I said, I'm sorry, honey, I got to do some research. This is for your well-being, not mine. But during my extensive research, we found M&Ms are paired fantastically with Pinot Noirs. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but those flavors just play so well together. You think of like an elegant Pinot Noir, you get those cherries, the raspberry, a little bit of earth. You get some spice, especially if they have some oak in it, and it works out so well. Not just regular M&Ms, but go all the way across the dark chocolate, the peanut butter, the caramel. It all plays so well with Pinot Noirs. Russian River Valley, especially. I love some of those with my M&Ms because they do have a little bit more fruit forwardness when you're getting them out of California versus in Oregon. So I think, again, almost back to that pairing of what if you just had a milk chocolate cake with like chocolate ganache on top, like a Pinot Noir might play well with it. So that's some of the things that I go to when I was trying to figure out broad, what am I going to buy? I think about, okay, here's this dessert or here's this candy, whatever your favorite candy may be, and look at it in another form of a dessert. So don't just think of like Snickers as a candy bar. Think of, is there a dessert you've ever had that has like some cookie layers with some caramels, some nuts, some chocolate drizzle? Is there a pie? Is there something like that? Okay, what fruits or what things have I also seen served with that dessert? And then you go, okay, there's raspberries, there's blackberries. Okay, so I want to go with a big red. Or it's strawberries and cherries. Okay, that's where I'm going to go Pinot Noir. And that's how, when I was trying to figure out these wines and where to even start, that's how we got our jump off. So sometimes when we're looking at these things, looking at them in a different form and just picturing the key ingredients and how those come together, just like the candy corn. If you look at candy corn just as the candy corn, it's kind of hard to see it in a different way. But if you look at it as it's trying to imitate flavors of baked apples and caramel with a little bit of lemon zest to it. Like, think about wine at that point. Chardonnays all day, apples and lemon zest. Like, it's such a great pairing. So hopefully that kind of thought process will translate for you in your brain as you're like, well, I stole this. I mean, I sacrificed myself so my kid didn't have to eat this candy out of their bag this year. And I think that this would make a fantastic chocolate and caramel nougat dessert. Maybe like a Milky Way, perhaps. I don't know. I like Milky Ways. I think they're really good. I mean, what's not to like? I like the texture. It's that soft nougat. It's a caramel center, little milk chocolate. Maybe pair that alongside a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon. Think of maybe chocolate dipped strawberries or chocolate dipped cherries. Now we're getting here into some of these juicy blackcurrant notes of Cabernet Sauvignon. And even in some cabs, like recently I had an Oberon, the Oberon's Paso Robles cab, which is a new project by them. And you got like espresso and dark chocolate out of it, like right in the wine. So perfect. Tack on the salty, creamy, nutty flavors. And it just fantastic pairing all day long. Milky Ways and Cabernets. What if we want to think outside of the box though? Like a Snickers? What are we going to do with Snickers? Especially in dark chocolate. Dark chocolate will clash with tannins. So, how do we approach that? We need to go back almost to that rule earlier that I was talking about of having the wine being sweeter than the dessert. So Snickers with the dark chocolate, it's got caramel, lots of sweetness. We should lean more towards a port pairing. Snickers candy bar paired with rich red port all day. So fantastic. Give me a 10-year tawny port all day long. Fantastic. If you don't want to go that crazy, a good bottled vintage port will be just as wonderful. But check that pairing out for yourself and see if I'm not lying. Okay. And then one of my favorite desserts. I keep calling them desserts. I don't know why. I guess I'm just used to working restaurants. My favorite candy might be one of the more difficult ones to picture. How would you pair it with? Because there's not chocolate, there's not caramel, it's just a lot of sugar, but it's got a lot of fruits. Starburst. I love Starburst. And they didn't have it when I was growing up, but now they got the Fave Reds Starburst where it's all the pinks and reds. Woo! You send me any of those, y'all will be my favorite listener for all time. Just saying. Those juicy little squares. I know dentists hate them everywhere, but again, let's think about one thing here. When I talked about the Fave Reds, or a lot of those Starburst colors, we can almost match the color of the wine to the candy. So I don't know if you put it together yet. Talked about Fave Reds, color of the wine, lighter reds, maybe like rosés. Some of those great like fruit flavors are just an all-day match with rosés. Especially because there's so many different Starburst flavors to match with rosés. But even like watermelon and strawberry of those Starburst, even to the lime zest or the lime lemon flavor, they can all pair really well with rosés. So for me personally, I might stay away from like a French rosé. I would probably go more like a California because again, you're gonna get a lot more fruit flavor out of them, and so I think that they just pair better than some old world styles where it gets a little bit more earthy. I love my Italian wines, but like a rosé out of Piedmont just has too many minerals to me. On this one, I'm thinking fruit with fruit, and so I want that porch pounder rosé to go with my candy. So another fun episode, another pairing or thoughts on pairings. There's a lot of different ways that you can really go. I mean, even when we were doing the candy corn, Prosecco played well with candy corn. Rieslings played well with candy corn. Off drive Rieslings played great with Starburst. There's so many, like a Zinfandel with a dark chocolate. There's just so many different pairings that can come from it. But like I said, think about what you like and how you see that dessert in a different view, and then think about that candy more as individual ingredients or individual items than all rolled into one. Even like Skittles. I'm not a huge Skittles fan, so like nothing like really jumped out at me except for Sauvignon Blanc, because for me, Sauvignon Blanc with the Skittles, that acidity kind of put all together meant more. I guess for me, Skittles are a little more tart, but those are really good pairings. And Swedish fish, we didn't even talk about the Swedish fish, but they go great with Beaujolais. There's a lot of pairings out there that you can find and have fun with. But I've done my due diligence in research, and unfortunately, as we all are great parents out there listening to this podcast, and we have to, sacrifice ourselves. Or maybe you don't have kids, and the neighborhood kids are coming by, and you got candy ready for them at the door, and you're looking at that candy, and you go, you know what, kids, I'm gonna take this hit for you, so you don't have to. I'm gonna sneak these few different candies out and try it yourself. Start playing around with the flavors and see what works well. There's no wrong answers in wine. It's really what excites you and what tastes well to you. So I hope you guys had fun with this podcast. Maybe you learned something, but at the end of the day, we got to drink some wine. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.